There are things about turning 70 that no one really told you, not because they didn't want to, but because some truths only become clear once you've truly lived them. In today's video, we're going to explore 7 truths that many older adults may have never heard before. These aren't in the books or on birthday cards, but they are deeply real in everyday life. Before we begin, would you let us know where you're watching from? Leave a quick comment below. We'd love to greet you properly, and thank you for being here. Number 1. When silence becomes sacred. One of the most overlooked realities of aging past 70 is the quiet transformation of daily life. Days become quieter, not merely because the environment changes, but because the familiar voices that once brought rhythm to each week begin to disappear. As a geriatric health educator with decades of experience across the United States, I have observed that this emotional shift is not just about loss. It is a complex psychological adaptation with profound physiological consequences. Aging, particularly in Western cultures, brings with it a societal invisibility that makes silence feel heavier. From a scientific standpoint, the reduction in social interaction after the age of 80 has a significant impact on both mental and physical health. According to a 2023 report by the World Health Organization, WHO, chronic loneliness is associated with a 26% increased risk of premature death, similar to smoking 15 cigarettes per day. A joint study by Harvard University and the University of Leipzig found that seniors over 80 who reported limited weekly social contact were twice as likely to experience cognitive decline over 2 years. These numbers are not simply statistics. They are lived realities for many older adults, particularly in industrialized nations where familial proximity and multi-generational living have declined. What causes this? It often begins with a slow, almost imperceptible thinning of one's social fabric. Friends move away, partners pass, and children become occupied with their own careers and caregiving responsibilities. Cultural factors in the United States, such as individualism and the prioritization of independence, exacerbate the isolation experienced by older people. Unlike many Eastern cultures where elders are revered and cared for within extended families, older adults in Western contexts often find themselves in residential facilities or aging in place alone. The emotional impact of this shift is profound. Daily rituals, morning coffee with a friend, weekly church visits, neighborhood walks, begin to vanish, leaving a void not just in routine, but in purpose. Psychological studies by the American Psychological Association, APA, confirm that consistent social interaction helps regulate cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. In the absence of a meaningful connection, cortisol remains elevated, which impairs immune function, increases inflammation, and contributes to cardiovascular strain. Yet there is hope, and it lies not in restoring what was, but in building anew. At this age, connection does not have to be grand or exhaustive. Evidence from the Canadian Institute for Aging Research shows that even brief, consistent social encounters, such as speaking to a grocery store cashier or attending a weekly community event, can significantly reduce feelings of isolation and improve mood. Communities in Oregon and Minnesota have successfully piloted elder-to-youth listening circles, where seniors share life stories with younger volunteers, enhancing intergenerational respect and emotional well-being for both groups. Practically, creating small, meaningful rituals can transform emotional experience. One woman I counseled, aged 84, began keeping a daily gratitude notebook where she wrote letters she never mailed, to her late husband, to friends she had lost touch with, and to her younger self. Over time, this simple habit helped her feel more connected to her past while remaining emotionally grounded in the present. Others have found comfort in local book clubs, walking groups, or faith-based outreach programs. What matters most is recognizing that while your external world may shrink, your inner life can continue to expand. As healthcare professionals, caregivers, and family members, We must create environments where older adults feel seen, heard, and respected. That means prioritizing emotional health as much as physical safety, offering opportunities for engagement, and most importantly, listening without interruption. The truth is, aging after 80 is not just about managing medications or mobility. It is about finding new ways to experience meaning when the familiar pathways of connection begin to dissolve. By embracing this with gentleness and wisdom, we can transform solitude into sacred reflection and silence into intentional peace. The essential takeaway is this: a quieter life after 80 does not have to be a lonelier one. With intention, compassion, and small daily acts of connection, emotional well-being can flourish even when the world around us remains still. Number 2. Your body is not failing you. It's asking you to listen. After the age of 70, the body does not collapse overnight. Instead, it changes its rhythm. Movements that once felt automatic now require more thought and effort. A simple task, such as bending down to pick up a newspaper, may now require planning. This shift can be unsettling, but it is not a sign of being broken. Instead, the body is requesting cooperation, not defiance. Geriatric specialists with decades of clinical practice often observe that the most significant challenge is not disease, but the unfamiliarity of one's own physical experience. One day, balance feels stable. The next, there is hesitation at the top of the stairs. One week, our digestion is dependable, and the following week, familiar foods cause discomfort. These changes are fundamental and not indicators of weakness. They reflect the biological realities of the aging process. According to data from the National Institute on Aging, NIA, muscle mass decreases by approximately 3% to 5% each decade after the age of 30, with a further acceleration after age 75. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, also reports that 1 in 4 Americans over 65 falls each year, making physical instability a leading cause of injury among older adults. These statistics do not predict decline. They serve as reminders that the body, like a seasoned partner, now requires care, respect, and collaboration. Physical adjustment is not solely about limitation. It is about strategy. In Germany, elder care models emphasize intelligent movement, physical routines tailored to individual capabilities, such as Tai Chi, chair yoga, and water-based exercises. These practices are gentle on joints and significantly improve proprioception, the body's sense of spatial orientation, which tends to decline with age. Such changes can provoke feelings of betrayal, particularly in cultures that equate health with performance. Statements like feeling like a burden or being less strong than before often reflect grief, not for lost youth, but for the loss of physical confidence. However, trust can be rebuilt by redefining strength. True strength is rising slowly and intentionally from a chair. It is knowing personal limits and cooperating with them. An 86-year-old man began each day with 5 minutes of gentle stretching and 10 minutes of seated breathing, referring to it as negotiating with the knees. What started as a chore evolved into a meaningful ritual that enhanced his posture, stabilized blood pressure, and rebuilt trust in his own body. From a clinical perspective, consistent, low-impact movement helps reduce inflammation, regulate blood sugar levels, and boost endorphins, natural mood enhancers. Research published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine indicates that seniors engaging in 150 minutes of moderate physical activity weekly have a 30% lower risk of all-cause mortality. The goal is not to reclaim youthful energy, but to preserve present-day autonomy. Walking more slowly, needing rest more frequently, these are not signs of failure. These are adaptations, and adaptation, in the context of aging, reflects wisdom and grace. The essential takeaway is this: the body after 80 is not an adversary. It is a lifelong companion asking for attentiveness, gentleness, and the reverence earned through decades of resilience and movement. Number 3. Visibility is not lost. It must be reclaimed. At a community town hall meeting in Cleveland, Ohio, an 89-year-old woman stood to speak. She had spent decades as a school principal, raising generations of learners. Yet, as she talked about sidewalk safety near her home, a younger city official interrupted to explain her concern, speaking slowly as if the elder were a child. The room fell quiet. The woman gently replied, "I've walked those streets longer than you've been alive." The room applauded. In that moment, her presence was undeniable. Her voice, long overlooked, reclaimed the space it deserved. In the years beyond 80, a quiet phenomenon often occurs, one that slips in unnoticed but weighs heavily: the feeling of becoming invisible. This experience is not born from imagination. It is woven into the culture and systems that surround the aging process. Store clerks address younger companions instead of elders. Healthcare professionals speak as if the person in the room is not present. The media glorifies youth, while the wisdom of age is too often overlooked or patronized. Sociological research from Stanford University shows that nearly 60% of Americans over 75 report feeling ignored or dismissed in public settings. Studies by the Gerontological Society of America further reveal that perceived invisibility is directly linked to decreased self-worth and emotional well-being among seniors. In the United States, where independence is prized but aging is stigmatized, this marginalization becomes even more pronounced. The result is not only emotional withdrawal, but a measurable impact on mental health and cognitive engagement. However, visibility is not merely granted by others. It is something that can be actively reclaimed. Reclamation begins with redefining the role of aging individuals in their communities. Elders are not burdens on the system. They are living archives of resilience, history, and insight. Cultivating spaces where their presence is both valued and invited is not only a matter of respect, but of social necessity. Communities that thrive across generations often do so because they have built frameworks for participation. In Portland, Oregon, public libraries host living history sessions, where seniors are encouraged to share life lessons with youth groups. In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, neighborhood councils have established Senior Voices panels that influence civic planning. These initiatives not only restore dignity, but also provide tangible roles where aging individuals contribute to shaping the future. Technology also offers unexpected opportunities for reconnection. Contrary to stereotypes, digital literacy among seniors is on the rise. Pew Research data from 2022 shows that over 75% of Americans aged 65 and older use the internet regularly. Online platforms have become gateways to reestablish identity and influence, from virtual storytelling circles to mentorship forums that match older adults with aspiring professionals seeking guidance. Art, too, becomes a powerful medium of reappearance. A program in Los Angeles known as Silver Stages offers older adults the opportunity to perform spoken word poetry, share visual art, or act in community theater. One participant, a former nurse, wrote and performed a monologue about caregiving and loss that moved the audience to tears. Such expression not only dissolves stereotypes, but also recenters aging voices in public discourse. Even in smaller, everyday choices, visibility can be asserted. Wearing colors that bring joy, speaking opinions with calm authority, and volunteering for roles that require leadership. These actions are not superficial. They are acts of affirmation. They say, "I am still here, and I still matter." Social psychologists emphasize that the need for belonging remains a core human need throughout all life stages. When that need goes unmet, it does not fade. It deepens into despair. Rebuilding visibility means returning that sense of belonging to those who have spent a lifetime earning their place. It means making room at the table, literally and metaphorically, for elders to speak, influence, and inspire. The essential takeaway is this: after 80, visibility does not disappear by fate. It fades only when culture forgets to look. With purposeful expression, participation, and voice, that light can be reignited and shine brighter than ever. Number 4. Freedom after 80 is not lost. It evolves. On a late autumn afternoon in Maine, a group of elders gathered at a community center to discuss transportation options after the local bus route was cut. One man, age 87, stood and said, "I've lived long enough to remember when walking was a way of life, not a loss of it." That remark sparked laughter, as well as reflection. What followed was not a list of complaints, but a plan. Neighbors offering rides, a walking club, and a proposal to reinstate a dial-a-ride service. In that moment, freedom was not defined by driving. It was characterized by choice, collaboration, and adaptability. This story reflects a broader truth. Freedom after 80 doesn't vanish. It simply takes on a new form. In the United States, where autonomy is fiercely valued, many older adults experience a sense of diminished control, not only because of physical changes, but also because well-meaning family members or institutions begin making decisions on their behalf. According to a study published in the Journals of Gerontology, nearly 40% of Americans over the age of 80 feel they have lost control over daily routines, such as meals, outings, or bedtime. The shift is subtle. A daughter starts planning every doctor's visit. A caregiver selects outfits or arranges mealtimes without asking. This gradual erosion of agency may be done out of love or efficiency, but it can leave the elder feeling disempowered, even infantilized. The internal message becomes clear: you are no longer in charge of your own life. Research from the National Institute on Aging emphasizes that maintaining decision-making roles significantly improves cognitive performance and emotional health in seniors. Autonomy is more than preference. It is identity. Even the smallest choices, such as picking the day's activities or deciding what to eat, serve as daily affirmations of selfhood. Rather than resisting every offer of help, elders who flourish find ways to reshape independence. For example, collaborative caregiving, where preferences are honored and routines co-created, has shown strong results in both nursing homes and aging-in-place programs. In Vancouver, Canada, the supported autonomy model enables elders to set weekly goals and boundaries with caregivers, ensuring that assistance enhances rather than overrides their autonomy. Technology can also play a key role. Wearable health monitors, voice-activated assistants, and transportation apps restore independence by removing logistical obstacles. Many seniors are now using ride-sharing services like Uber with family-linked accounts, allowing flexibility without dependency. Emotionally, reclaiming freedom after 80 may also mean setting limits on obligations that no longer serve. This is a stage of life where boundaries become powerful tools of self-preservation. Saying no to draining conversations, choosing restful solitude over noisy gatherings, or expressing long-silenced preferences are all forms of empowered freedom. One woman, age 83, began declining invitations that didn't bring her joy. "I spent years doing what I thought was polite," she said. "Now, I do what gives me peace." That peace, hard-earned, is perhaps the most valid form of freedom. The culture around aging must evolve to honor this transition. Empowerment at this stage requires dialogue, not assumption. It means asking, not directing. It requires caregivers, clinicians, and loved ones to see the person, not just the patient or the parent. The essential takeaway is this: freedom after 80 is not about clinging to old ways, but about embracing new ones that reflect the needs and desires of today. Genuine autonomy is not measured in miles driven or stairs climbed. It is measured in choices honored and voices heard. Number 5. Grief doesn't end, it changes shape. In a quiet suburb of Pittsburgh, A man named Harold visits the same park bench every afternoon. He carries a photo of his wife, who passed away 7 years earlier, and reads aloud from the newspaper as if she's still beside him. To a passerby, it might seem like a habit. But to Harold, it's part of something more profound, a ritual that keeps the past tethered to the present without being consumed by it. This is grief after 80, not loud or sudden, but constant and folded into the routine of daily life. Grief at this age does not announce itself with drama. It arrives with the empty seat at the table, the holiday card addressed only to one, and the silence after a familiar joke has no one left to hear it. It is persistent and often invisible to others. According to the National Institutes of Health, older adults who have experienced multiple losses, spouses, siblings, lifelong friends, are at a higher risk of developing what researchers call prolonged grief disorder, a condition marked by lingering sorrow and social withdrawal. But grief in late life is not simply a psychological state. It's also physiological. Studies from the University of California, San Francisco, reveal that chronic grief activates the brain's stress centers, increasing cortisol and weakening the immune system. Over time, this can lead to increased inflammation, insomnia, heart disease, and even cognitive decline. When grief is unseen, its toll becomes more insidious. And yet, grief also invites a kind of emotional depth that few other experiences can. Many elders describe a softening of the heart, a new sensitivity to others' pain, and a greater appreciation for the simplest forms of connection. One widow in Illinois began volunteering at a hospital after her husband's death, saying, "I couldn't stop the ache, but I could walk with someone else through theirs." Her grief didn't lessen, it expanded into compassion. This is the paradox of aging grief. It isolates, and yet it can connect. It silences, and yet it gives voice to memory. In Germany, hospice programs have begun integrating grief storytelling circles into senior homes, allowing residents to speak openly about those they've lost. These shared spaces help reduce loneliness and facilitate collective mourning, transforming private sorrow into communal resilience. In the United States, initiatives like Letters to the Departed invite seniors to write to those they've lost. These letters are read in small groups or published anonymously in community newsletters. For many, this act is not just cathartic, it affirms that love continues beyond presence. Ritual also plays a critical role. Lighting a candle each evening, tending to a shared garden, or simply whispering a name into the wind, these are not signs of being stuck in grief, but of staying lovingly rooted. The healthiest form of aging grief is one that honors absence without being overcome by it. Mental health professionals emphasize the importance of acknowledging and naming grief. What is recognized can be accepted, and what is believed can be lived with more ease. Too often, older adults feel pressure to move on, when in truth, the goal is to carry grief with dignity, not to erase it. The essential takeaway is this: grief after the age of 80 does not end. It becomes quieter, wiser, and more deeply woven into the fabric of daily life. When allowed to breathe, it does not break the heart. It expands its capacity to love, remember, and endure. Number 6. Strength after 70 is not power, it's presence. A recent longitudinal study by the Harvard Study of Adult Development, one of the longest-running studies on aging, found that emotional presence, simply being available and attentive, has a more profound impact on mental health and life satisfaction in older adults than physical fitness or financial status. Participants who maintained close, steady relationships and engaged meaningfully with others reported higher levels of resilience, purpose, and well-being well into their 80s and 90s. On a chilly morning in Vermont, a woman named Ellen stood at her window, watching the snow fall quietly over her garden. At 88, she no longer shoveled the driveway or tended the vegetable rows as she once did. But that day, she noticed a small child from the neighborhood slipping on the icy sidewalk. Ellen knocked on the window, motioned him toward the porch, and waited with a warm blanket until his parents arrived. Her hands trembled, her steps were slow, but her presence was firm, grounded, and precisely what that moment needed. This is what strength looks like after 80. Not brute force or physical prowess, but calm clarity, emotional steadiness, and the quiet influence that ripples through small actions. In a culture that often equates strength with speed, muscle, and productivity, the deeper kind of strength that emerges with age is too often overlooked. Scientific studies from the University of Michigan's Institute for Social Research show that older adults who regularly engage in caregiving, storytelling, or community mentoring demonstrate higher levels of psychological resilience and lower levels of depression. The impact is not just emotional, it is biological. The simple act of being needed or offering guidance activates reward centers in the brain, enhancing dopamine and reducing inflammatory stress responses. After the age of 80, strength takes on new dimensions. It's in making decisions that routines falter. It's in choosing grace when memory fails. It's in enduring the loss of friends and still finding ways to welcome new people in. It's not about proving the body's capacity, but affirming the soul's durability. In Sweden, senior community centers have adopted a philosophy known as wise strength, which reframes aging not as decline, but as a transformative process. Elders are encouraged to lead workshops, advise on community projects, and support younger caregivers, not because they are physically dominant, but because their lived experience brings a strength of perspective that no training can replicate. In the United States, faith-based and intergenerational programs are increasingly recognizing this quiet power. At a church in rural Georgia, older adults write handwritten notes to younger couples preparing for marriage. One note simply read, "When you feel like giving up, remember the reasons you said yes." That line, scribbled in shaky cursive, became the couple's anchor through their hardest season. Strength, once again, whispered rather than shouted. Physical strength may fade, but presence, the ability to show up, to listen, to love steadily, grows stronger with time. One man, age 90, sat by his daughter's hospital bed for 3 nights straight, barely speaking, just holding her hand. He didn't say much, she later recalled, but I didn't need words. I needed him. This kind of presence is neither flashy nor loud, but it is unshakable. It carries the weight of a lifetime of learning, of mistakes survived, of humility earned. It does not ask to be noticed. It simply exists, and that is more than enough. The essential takeaway is this. Strength after 80 is not measured in what the body can lift, but in what the heart continues to hold. It is the wisdom to speak softly, the courage to stay when it's hard, and the grace to remind others, through action, not words, that real strength stands quietly, listens deeply, and never. If there's one lesson to carry from today's video, it's this. Aging does not erase value, it reveals it. The losses, the changes, even the silence, all hold pieces of strength that only time can shape. A slower body is not a weaker soul. A smaller circle is not a smaller life. There is beauty in presence, wisdom in fragility, and dignity in adapting. To care for your health as you age, protect your routine. Move gently, but daily. Stay mentally active, emotionally connected, and never stop sharing your story, because someone out there needs to hear it. We would now love to hear from you. What truth resonated with you most? Leave us a comment below. We read everyone. Your voice matters. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to our channel now. And don't forget to explore our other videos. There's so much more wisdom, science, and hope waiting for you. Thank you for watching. We wish you a peaceful heart and a healthy, meaningful day ahead.